Yay. I want to say hello to everybody. How y'all doing? Let me see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. You can go ahead and turn your mics on if you want, if it's not too noisy around you, so we can interact and have discussion. I would appreciate that. I am recording my screen right now. Ashte Kola.
Well, he said 7:59.
Say again. Oh, there we go. All right. Tell me if you all can hear me.
We can hear you.
A happy day. Thank you, Brian. So I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Dr. Ginugijic. Let me see if I can shut this. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
That's weird. I can't see myself, but I'll trust you. I have faith. My name is Dr. Ginugijic, and I got my doctorate degree in education administration. I'm also a licensed principal, and I've been a principal at Buganagijic School for a couple of years, a few years, and then I taught at Buganagijic Ojibwe language K through 12 for about 3 years, and 3 years as a cultural coordinator, then principal, and then taught at tribal college, Indian education, and taught at BSU Ojibwe language for a number of years. And I also, right now, I'm currently principal at Red Lake School District, and I've been principal, I don't know, maybe about 6 years. Time kind of flies. And anyway, so my presentation today is on transforming school systems. It's kind of interesting because when I got to Red Lake, there wasn't a whole lot of going on for language and culture. It was there, but it could be better. As an example, let me see, my first year I was a secondary principal, and I spent that year just trying to get the feel for being principal again, and what's that like. And then the next year I moved over to kindergarten principal. They had 8 kindergarten classrooms, and I had some other added duties besides the 8 classrooms. And what was interesting was when I walked down the hallway in the kindergarten building, I walked down the hallway and I looked for signs of our culture, who we are as we are today or yesterday, historically, presently, or just any themes. And there was nothing there. All there was castles, Rapunzel, Halloween, bulletin boards, but there wasn't any Indian stuff. And when you walk through that school, Red Lake, which it's interesting because, well, when you walk through that school, it looked like any other public school in Minnesota. You couldn't really tell the difference, except that was, of course, they're Anishinaabe students walking up and down the hallways. And but you couldn't see it on the bulletin boards. And in most of the classrooms, when I walked into the classrooms throughout the school, there was nothing Indigenous, relatively speaking. And And I don't know. I don't really. I think for me, I'm a Ojibwe language revitalist. Our language was uh, dying, and now it's starting to get a new growth. The younger ages are picking it up. It's cool to be Indian again, and it's prestigious to learn the language. Hey, baby.
Hi.
And I really wanted to make changes in language, and while I was there, I was busy being principal, kindergarten principal, and man, I loved it because little tiny kids, little kindergartens come up and they give you a big hug, and they catch you when you're not looking. They run up and they hug you, and that was the most awesome thing in the world. And the new superintendent asked me about Indian Ed director. If I wanted to be the Indian Ed director, I could be a principal on special assignment. And I really loved kindergarten. It was awesome, working with all the kids, etc. And but I thought about it, and I thought, we I told the superintendent, when you go hire someone and they're going to sit around and they're not going to do nothing. That's how it's been in public schools for as long as I can remember, decades. I don't mean nothing. I mean, they're not doing anything that is revolutionary. They're not doing anything that is systems changing. Then basically you get only doing what they're allowed to do. So here we are on Red Lake Reservation. Here we are on the Lake Reservation, and interesting, on the Red Lake Reservation, it is a closed reservation. That means all the way on the boundaries, the boundaries goes, I don't know, I'm gonna guess 50 miles, or how many miles it goes. And then it goes north by so many miles. So it's square. It's a huge reservation. And the tribe owns basically 99% of the land, all of the land, and they're sovereign. And they are proud of their being sovereign and won't let nobody mess with them. And very powerful political power. So here we have a closed reservation. There's only 2 in the United States. The rest of them have been chopped up, like White Earth. I'm from White Earth. And if you imagine your screen being a reservation, and but only 4% of that, you're inside that boundary, but only 4%. I think it's down to 3% now, maybe even 2% on White Earth belongs to Indians. So there's little dots of Indian land that's non-taxable. And but if you look at Red Lake, the entire map, except maybe 1%, is all Indian land. So they're sovereign. They get to make their own laws. People can't tell them what they can do inside the boundary because they have jurisdiction over the entire boundary. And so they're sovereign. And the school board is almost 100% native, but definitely all of them are from native family and have native kids in the they all have native kids. And so here we have 100%, basically 100% native school board, and basically 100% native students. And we have maybe 14% Native American teachers, and most of those are Ojibwe language and culture teachers. So the classroom teacher percentage drops even further. Probably, I don't know, I'm going to make a random guess, close guess of 7%, or even probably less than that. It's got to be much less than that. So, it's like, why is such a native school so non-native. And I think a lot of it has to do with the paradigm that we grew up with, what we were taught, what school is, what we were taught school is supposed to do. We're supposed to have the principal and the teachers and the students and then the board. And that's all we know. And then we all know the rules and regulations from the state of Minnesota Department of Education, and try to keep it simple and stick to that. But we could go, we actually have the power to do a lot more of what we want, whatever we want to do. Well, first of all, the school board is in power, and they can make a lot of decisions. They have a lot of power, and they can tell the superintendent what to do, who can tell the principals what to do. So if they wanted to say, we want to set Ojibwe language as the highest priority in the school, they could do that. They have that power to do that. And they could tell the superintendent to make it happen. You make it happen. And the superintendent would have to do that. That's how powerful the school board is. I remember at Buganagijic School when I was principal there, me and my buddy Adrian Liberty, we were sitting around thinking, man, we have all these classrooms. And again, this one was a native school, BIE school. There wasn't a whole lot of native stuff going on. And we were saying, why don't we just why don't we take kindergarten, one of the classrooms, there's 4 classrooms. Why don't we take one of them and dedicate it to immersion? And then you wouldn't have to pay any extra money. You just move your people around and make it an immersion school. And so we brought it to the school board. So at Buganagijic, the entire school board at that time, a long time ago, was 100% native. And it was funny because, I was nervous because I was like, man, ain't nobody going to let us have Ojibwe immersion, no English classroom. And we went there, Adrian and I went up there and we brought that proposal forward. And one of the school board, they voted yes. And one of the school board members, man, we've been waiting for 20 years for somebody to do this. And I'm like, what? You're the school board. You can do whatever you want. Why was he waiting 20 years to do that? And they could have just done it. And so Buganagijic, following what the Mohawks were doing, Mohawk immersion and the Hawaiian immersion. But what the Mohawks did was they did one grade, then they added another grade, another grade, another grade, all immersion, no English. And eventually, and they were very successful. So the school board has that much power to change what your school looks like. So, most school boards are lay people, and, they have different views on life, so I suppose in the long haul, you would have to educate them onto why language is important, why culture is important. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been talking to them why we want to do this and make those changes. I think what was really cool, there's a couple big starts. I'm going to talk about when I first got on as Indian Ed. We got a brand new superintendent. The other superintendent left, new superintendent came in. I think it was, we were lucky because the new superintendent, who is not native, but grew up around native reservation, and she was superintendent on a tribal, taught and was superintendent in a tribal school. And they had elders there. And so for her, putting language into the classroom, having cultural activities permeate the school, that was normal for her. So when she joined on, some people And it gets scary because for me, like non-native people are, especially if you're in power and in charge, you're like a form-fitting mattress. If an Indian comes in there, you're gonna adjust a little bit, and you're gonna make you're gonna accommodate the native person. Let's say the school board pushes language and culture, but if they quit pushing, that form-fitting mattress goes back to state standards and what is that? Research methodologies and uh, curriculum. You have to use all that. You bring all that back in, wipe everything back out. Everything goes back. So like me, I'm like I'm like the Indian in the cupboard. I'm the Indian in the cabinet, and so I I do have change in there. So anyways, the new superintendent comes in, and I'm just starting out as a Indian Ed director, and new superintendent comes in, and what was really nice, things were lining up. First of all, we get a superintendent who's been there and done this and worked with language and culture and integrated it. But sometimes I wasn't really sure which way she was going to go. She's going to keep going the path or make these changes. But it was really nice because I think the stars aligned because at our parent advisory, I think it was Soup with the Soup, yeah, which kind of worked as the parent advisory at the same time. It was for community input, parent input, and there were some people came and they were very vocal, and they pretty much put the fire underneath her, so to speak. No pun intended. That sounds just crazy. And but they lit her up, and they said, "This is Indian school. How come you're not doing this? You're spending all this money on all this Indian money, and you're not doing anything Indian." I mean, they were, but the point being, they're not rocking and rolling, and you're spending all this money, but you're not integrating language and culture. And there was a lot of members at that meeting. They all just kind of fed off each other and lit the superintendent up. A superintendent probably has a different side of this story, but this is my story. And so it was great. It was great that we had Susan Ninham in there telling the superintendent how it is. It was great that we had Nate. And it was great that we had Sylvia. And it was great that we had all those people that came in and said, this is what we want. And we want this to be a native school. And so she took those charges, and we were able to make many changes. And so the many changes that we did, I'm going to say that Red Lake has transformed. It has transformed from any public school to a Native American culturally responsive school. We're getting it into the curriculum. We're getting the language to grow, and it's not just me. It's not just the superintendent, but the people that are making the changes. I think is our teaching staff, our parents that are still being very, very, very vocal, which is nice. And there's a lot of things that we are changing to make sure the school transforms. And a lot of it is getting into the meetings and being vocal, and it's getting into the governing documents. So there's this transformation going on, and it has. What I think a lot of it was that I think it was because a lot of it was because we asked. Well, we didn't really ask, and we didn't really demand it. We just said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to transform the school. And what do we need? And they asked the teachers, what do you need? Teachers said, we need money. Just kidding. They, they said, we need training. We need training in culture. We weren't trained in culture, Ojibwe culture. And so they need money to do that. They need something. And then we need training in language. So, you're gonna send us to training or something. We need something because we have nothing. So then we started looking at, well, instead of sending people out to get a four-year degree in Ojibwe language or Indian studies, how about we integrate it? And I think just because we were gentle and we were kind, that we told people, don't worry, we're not jamming this down your throat. We're not going to kick you out if you don't do this. We're going to grow this together as a team. And I think that approach, it allowed safety for the staff, for the teachers and the principals to go and come up with ideas of how we could integrate language and culture. And I kept saying it needs to be, the integration needs to be in the core curriculum, not integrated in your classroom, not where you put a bunch of posters up on the wall or have some coloring activities. No, we need to get into the math. We need to get into the science, and we need to integrate it at the heart. The bullseye is the core curriculum. And so one charge or one direction that we wanted to go was getting into the core curriculum. The other one was to produce fluent speakers. So our language is moribund, meaning it's not growing, it's dying. And in the looks of things, it's gonna die. The last speakers, there was only a handful of speakers left. Luckily in our Indian country, there's a new growth for young people that really are jamming out and learning the language, and they're saving the language for us. So that's really nice. But anyways, we need to make those changes in the school. Interesting. I asked a couple former principals in Red Lake. I said, I looked at our Ojibwe language program. Here's our language and culture program. The classroom teacher would take their kids and go down the hall. It'd be the last room on the left. That's my left. The last classroom on the left. Drop their kids off, get their prep break, their teacher prep, go back to the room, get their teacher prep, call them back and pick their kids up. And the kids were only getting Ojibwe language every 7th school day, some every 6th school day, because they were rotating between all of the gym teacher, art teacher, music teacher, etc. And I should say teachers. And so the kids were only getting it once every 7th day, and a lot of it was nouns. It was numbers, colors, and animals. And so there's a new movement in Ojibwe country. Teach vowels, don't teach nouns. We've been teaching nouns for 50 years. Nobody can speak the language because it's a verb language. How do you can teach a parrot how to say a list of nouns, but you can't teach a parrot how to conjugate a verb. So we switched, all of our curriculum is moving to verbs. But let me back up. So they dropped the kids off, pick them up. The teacher didn't learn anything. Kids learned a couple nouns and they forget it all over the long summer. And I asked couple of the former principals I said, when you were here, were you afraid to mess with the language teacher? Were you afraid to hold them accountable to teaching? And it was, what was really cool was that they were honest. And because we had a relationship. Well, this is when they were still working. We had a safe relationship. We felt safe. We could confide. And they said, yep, we don't want to mess with the language instructors because they're the pride and joy of the community. And if we mess with them, we're going to get messed with. And so there was no like accountability to see if language was growing, no assessments, etc. And then the language instructors, and they did great jobs. They worked hard. They loved teaching language. They loved teaching culture. But the way the system was set up, they weren't able to work together. So none of the language instructors were allowed to work together as teams like a professional development or PLTs, they call them now, where they could get together and discuss things. So that's the first thing we changed. And the language instructors got together and said, we need to do something to make it better. And so one of the things was they decided we're going to switch to verbs, and we're going to, the numbers, colors, and animals ain't working. So then eventually we started working on to have a scope and sequence K through 12 in the language. And we want them all to agree on it. So all the language instructors are working together and agreeing on it. And now we have a scope and sequence K through 12, which is on our website. And now we're building the common assessments. That's there. So it'll be like MCAs. You know, on third grade we're going to test them. This grade we're going to test them. Eventually we'll have tests all up and down common assessments K through 12. Our goal is to pass the SEALS test, language SEALS test by 12th grade, and at least have basic conversation skills. Basic conversation skills are to be able, students should be able to say, what you doing, where you going, call me up later, whatever. So the language program is really growing, and we're continuing to grow that because they get to work together. And we said, this is what we need. And now that we're building assessments, common assessments, now the teachers are going to be held accountable. And this is what you're supposed to be teaching. How come your kids are not making it there? Now we can compare data and say, what's going on? What do we need to do to fix it? So that's one example. A school system, and I could go on and on about my love for the language and the things we're doing in the language, but we only have about another half hour, I believe. Dan, how long do we go? Does anybody know how long we're supposed to go?
9 o'clock.
Okay, so I'm going to try to fast forward it a little bit here. Uh-oh. I hope I didn't shut off the record button. Yeah, I don't see a. Let me see. Yeah, I did say it said to us we're recording. What I don't see is the yellow line when I'm sharing my screen. Let's see if that works. I'm going to try to bring up my share my screen, push that one, press share. Oh, you see my screen already, huh? Do you see it? You are screen sharing. Do you guys
Yes.
see? Okay, here we go. So I think when we first started on the language, we needed to share language with all of our teachers, because we need to get the teachers levels up and resources for them. So we built a web page. If I just came from our school website, when there's a link that brings us to this one I maintain. So here's our language scope and sequence for K-12. Anybody can download it right here by just clicking on this. And our scope and sequence kind of looks like this. Numbers, we have introduction, developing, in mastery. So kids should know 1 through 1,000, introduced in kindergarten, first grade. They should be developing in mastery by at least 1 to 1,000 by third grade. And so we just do that we took a bunch of topics off of ESL. We kind of collected all the ESL topics and kind of looked at which ones were high frequency ones and which ones, and we got rid of the ones that were remote. And these are the high frequency themes in ESL, which works great for us. And so all parents, all students, all teachers, the universe has access to this scope and sequence. And now we're going to build the assessments around there. So we put vocabularies together. Like if you want to learn vocabularies around fire, here they are. I kind of put the top 4 is for our teachers, and the rest is a gazillion other words we found that have to do with fire. And so this one is the elements: earth, wind, fire, water, the sky, weather terminology. The beings are these follow our creation story: plants, animals, birds, fish, insects, kind of people, person, a family, etc. So you get a chance to go look through, see all these cool ones. We have cultural themes, and this is for all of our teachers. And we say, here's the monthly themes we want you to focus on. They're like, the culture's so huge, what are we supposed to focus on? Of course, we have some taboo stuff that only Native teachers can teach, like our spirituality, talking about our ceremonies or our sacred items. We asterisks them in here and said, anything with the asterisks, you should get an elder to do it. You shouldn't be out there trying to teach about our ancient ceremonies. So if there's asterisks, the teachers get an elder in the community to come in and teach it. But there's a million different things, cultural things you could do. Cooking, you could do making bread, outside bread on the open fire. You could work on butchering a deer, or canning meat, or canning food, diabetic nutrition, drying food, how to make fried bread. Whenever I hear an idea for a curriculum idea, I try to add it into here, so it's like a repository of ideas. But there's so many of them. I just tell the teachers, just focus on these. A lot of our culture has to do with providing food in our relationship with the earth. And, gardening, bird hunting, animal hunting. We always take a break and storytell in the middle of winter. And we do trapping, snaring, maple sugar, spearing, planting. So what we try to do is make this information available. We made 13 books for storytelling, worked with elders and translated, made up some stories. If you go to Amazon.com and type in Dr. Ginugijik, these books will pop up. Or any of the other authors, our elders, Nijo Benes or Jean Weiwei Gijigukwe, or they're all grouped together in a collective group called The Adventures of Nana Buju. And you can find them. We have a bunch of them at our school. So let's take maple syrup. So we hired 2 staff. Some of it has 2 devices on, I think. So we had, let's say we just had maple syrup just recently. And this is a big event. We can set up a camp and we can bus the entire school district to come over and check it out. So we created, learning stations, and we want you to learn how to, one is drill a hole, hang the bag or the canister, and why we do it on the south side of the tree, and how to clean out that hole, tap that in, put in, hang the bag, and collecting syrup, and why we don't spill the syrup. It's like spilling the tree's blood all over the ground. And boiling it down, at what temperatures does it boil? So the teacher comes out with their kids and asks a lot of questions. Kids ask a lot of questions. They're supposed to take a lot of notes, and they take that information, that data they collect, and they go back in the classroom, and they added into their curriculum. So as an example of math from maple sugar, an example for maple sugar is, let's say our camp, we wanted to make it easy just for instructions, not for mass production of maple syrup or sugar. So we only tapped like 40 trees. So we would get 40 trees, and the maple sap to maple syrup ratio is like 30 to 1. So we could turn that into the math equation. We could say how many 40 trees produce how many gallons on an average day, and we could chart and make averages, because some days they'd run good, some days they wouldn't. And there's also, you're watching weather. So you could do all kinds of math stuff. You could say our camp makes with 40 taps produces X amount per day on the average, while the other camp down the road, they have like 5 times as many trees tapped and they're producing this. Yeah, so now you can start using math equations and all kinds of stuff. You could say like we had 3 families helping out, and they decided to divide it equally. So now you have a division by thirds of finished product. Or you could say one of the 3 could only be there half the time. So now you have 2.5 to divide all that. So you could think of all kinds of stuff. Then there's a lot of science in it, like traditionally it's when the crows come back and start singing, start hollering, that's when it starts, and it's done when the frogs start singing. So what is the science behind that? Well, the science is that while the ground thaws out and all of the frogs that are hibernating in the mud come out. So once the ground thaws out, the sap stops going up and down a tree. When it freezes at night, it pushes the sugar up. It pushes it up to the top of the tree. When the sun comes out, the sap runs down the tree. So there's a bunch of science in there. And we look for all that science to add in. And the teachers bring that back. And the teachers get together and they share information to some degree. We got a long ways to go, but sometimes they would have talking circles on what are they doing to integrate culture. And the people come up with these ideas and they take notes from each other's. So some of the teachers were like, they're running with it. They weren't waiting to be coaxed or anything. They just got up and came up with great ideas. And then they shared that, and that would stimulate other teachers to start incorporating that. So that's kind of the grassroots level of transformation. So I want to look at some of the things that have been going on in the transformation process. When we looked at all the things that we've been doing or doing that's new or continuing, the kind of themes kind of evolved. Curriculum, policy, professional development. There's curriculum again. I must not have sorted it. I think I just took the top ones that I wanted to talk about on some presentation. Policy and looking at our resources. One thing is we put an elder in every building, and so we could have access to language, and they could help the kids in behavior, and they could have their voice in our meetings. And that was nice. Middle school really enjoyed it because the elders just being there kind of calmed down the kids a little bit, so they would be fighting in the lunchroom. We made a bunch of language videos and put them on the website. Try to get contextual learning videos. We added those onto the website. We made the website that I showed you for the whole district and community and for teachers. So we're always trying to figure out ways to help teachers learn the language. During our school-wide PLTs, our staff can go into the SLTs and the PLTs too. Mostly the PLTs where they're developing lesson plans for culture, and we can help assist them. Some of them have no idea. I mean, even our own staff, like, I don't know, I never did this before, but let's put our minds together and figure it out. So we provide technical assistance. We have myself and 2 culturalists on staff. We hired the culturalists to have experiential learning activities going. We want them to be doing maple sugar outside. We want them to do rice demonstrations, get a couple kids, go out ricing, come back, do a learning station demonstration. It'd be nice if we could get a little cultural village going on where they're doing this year round. Of course, it's freezing in the wintertime. But they were hired to have ongoing cultural experiential learning. So that way the teachers could go out and see those cultural activities and ask questions, learn, get their hands on it, have the kids get their hands on learning, experiential learning, come back and put it into the culture. That's the district-wide culture staff that we hired. And when we do cultural activities, we want to turn them into learning videos so that we can talk about and create a library that all the teachers can look at. Teacher might want to use some of those videos before the kids go racing and they get them ready for it. And it also we want to have those videos like being educational videos. So every time we do some culture, we try to document to make into a video and eventually into books too, and make those curriculum materials. So our language staff, we are not fluent speakers, none of us, but we teach the language. But we have professional development for our language instructors once a week, and they're actually doing really good. I can speak a little bit. I can hang in there for a while. And but I used to teach grammar, language grammar, so I know all the grammar rules, and we work with our language instructors. We decided we were going to try to have an immersion pipeline. We're going to have 1 grade be immersion kindergarten, then add another grade and add another grade, a classroom. We're going to add classrooms and create a pipeline, but that never panned out because there are no applicants. And so we had some kids graduating from 4-year-old immersion on the reservation program. And they came over to the school and they said they wanted to keep them in cohorts. So we have a cohort. Next year, we're adding 6th grade cohort. And we really didn't do much with it because I really didn't know what to do with it. And but now we're starting to figure it out. And we're for in the cohorts, we're trying to push resources in there. Like we want to get teachers to come in as push-in teachers rather than the kids being dropped off. And we found the magic answer for language is push-in. Instead of having your classroom teachers drop their kids off, we want the teacher to stay in the classroom and have the language instructor push in. The teacher has to stay there as a student. They can't sit there and do busy work. They can't multitask. They have to be a student when the language instructor is in there. So the kids are learning with the instructor classroom. And then when hold on, I'm the only one that can open the door. So the magic answer for language, besides the language teachers working together, quit teaching nouns and teach verbs. The biggest one is push in, where the language instructor goes into the classroom, the teacher stays there. And those classrooms, our kids are just rocking and rolling, and the teachers are rocking and rolling. The teachers are doing weather, they're doing calendar, they're using commands, they're using greetings. We made posters of, we made posters for our cohorts of commands, affirmations, student affirmations. You're doing a good job. You're smart. You can do it. You're beautiful. And greetings. And we gave those to the cohort. And it was really cool because our kindergarten principal said, I want all of our teachers, not just the cohorts, to do all of that. And they set aside, so they have every Monday, they get 2 hours off. And they do that every week of the month. But 1 week out of the month is simply Ojibwe. And they all work together, kindergarten through second, to develop materials that they can use in the classroom. Doing to do all of that, what the cohorts are doing. The third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers saw kindergarten through second rocking and rolling. They say, we want that too. And now the principal for the third, fourth, fifth grade principal said, we are going to do that. And we're almost going to just close the cohorts because everybody's going to be expected to do it. And but we're keeping our cohorts because we want to emphasize our resources there. We want to produce fluent speakers. By the time they finish 12th grade, we do not have enough teachers or enough resources to have all students have Ojibwe every single day. So with limited resources, we want to use the cohorts to focus our best language best language students. So we can get those guys language every single day till they get to 12th grade. They're going to be like a tracking system. I think we only got a little bit of time, so we talked about the Ojibwe instructors having their own PLT time. How teachers, when we just came in gentle, came in like a lamb. The stellar teachers were leading, getting the other teachers to start integrating culture and language in. And once a month, for professional development, it's a district-wide. We do it by Teams or Zoom. We use Teams, and so our district, our strategic plan has 3 pillars. One is academics, one is social emotional learning, and one is language and culture integration. So once a month, I get a third of that, and I teach all of the teachers, the district, how to read Ojibwe, how to pronounce Ojibwe. We just got done with one of those today, and it's really good. I think for me, I wanted to etch all of this stuff in stone. So let me just take 2 minutes to just whip down the list of some of the stuff that we're doing. We built a puberty curriculum based on our culture, which when you turn into adult, you have to go fast out in the woods. Women start their moon time, and there's a lot of culture behind that. But we put that in our health program from a cultural perspective of what men's roles are respectful in the culture. We're noticing that teachers are starting to use the language in the classrooms with the kids throughout the school. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There was career pathways. There was a group out of Hawaii. They said they would make it indigenous. So we paid them $25,000 and they came over and indigenized our curriculum. They put all Ojibwe titles in throughout the book, Ojibwe pictures from our reservation. So the career pathways is Red Lake specific, and but still follows all the standards. Scope and sequence K through 12 Ojibwe. Now our students, when they used to get language only 7 days, every 7th class day, they're getting them twice a week. So we added more language staff, and principals are using language in their bulletins. Our mission statement is all in Ojibwe. It's bilingual, followed by English, and our school board report, we give Ojibwe language titles to all of the directors and supervisors. So when you look down the agenda, it's in Ojibwe, and we read it in Ojibwe, whose turn it is to give their report. Now we're seeing Ojibwe everywhere. You walk down the hall, well, in elementary, You walk down the hallways and you see everything plastered in the hallways. There's our native animals with their names and our cultural icons all over the outside walls. And if you go in some of our classrooms, my gosh, you wouldn't believe how much language is in the classroom. And that's because the teachers are rocking and rolling, and we just took it easy. So here, let me see, I've got 9 minutes left. All this would have, when I talked about a form-fitting mattress, you know, if the Indian leaves the room, the form-fitting mattress goes back to the way it was. We didn't want that to happen. We wanted it to be written in stone. And you know, a lot of places I've been, when they rewrite the vision statement for the school, they just look at a bunch of other schools' vision statements and kind of jam all the cool words together, and that's it. And that's the new vision statement. But on this one, when they were writing it, it didn't say language and culture straight up. And so I was very stubborn and said, it has to say language. You know, we did a survey with parents and how important is language and culture, and they're like 86% of them said it was very important, and some of them said it is important, some said it's kind of important, but it was skewed left, and it was huge. But even though your survey says that, doesn't mean that the administration is going to hear it. So when I was in there, we made sure that we included that, and it was really nice because there were teachers, there were principals that understood equity, there's principals that understood culture, not just Indian culture, but all culture, different varieties of diversity needs to be part of it. So they agreed that language and culture has to be very clearly spelled out, that language is important and culture is. You can see it on our vision statement and mission statement. I try to get in spots of power. One is a strategic planning committee. And since our mission statement says it, of course, it would follow our strategic plan would do that too. And we have a really good team that understands how important SEL is for a historic and contemporary trauma community on the reservation. So the social emotional learning is one of the three pillars, and language and culture is one of the three. And so we say, if you emotionally, if you're secure in who you are, and if you have SEL, social emotional skills, behavioral skills, yeah, once you take care of the physical and the emotional part, the academics will follow. And so that's the cultural relevance, and being proud of who you are and being confident, and social emotional skills, how to do self-awareness, how to do de-escalation, how to do communication. So we changed the mission statement and the vision statement. And this is kind of cool, is you try to make that government documents go all the way through from beginning to end. So during principal meetings and cabinet meetings, we decided that all of our agendas would have template. We'd have on the template language and culture. So when you run down the agenda, you have to have discussions at the principal level, ILT, and at the SLT, which is the executive teachers, kind of a advisory group to the principal. They have to have culture and language on one of the agenda items to talk about. How's it going? What are you guys doing? And then our PLTs, which are teacher-wide, district-wide, they have to have language and culture on their agenda as an agenda item. So we are making sure that it is written in stone all the way through. So TD&E, teacher evaluation, teacher development and evaluation. So we have the self-assessment, and we have walkthroughs. So on the self-assessment, you know, you had the standard standard scale, Likert scale rubric of how good are you at classroom management, at lesson planning, community outreach or whatever, score 0 to 5. They didn't have anything for culture or language. So we added a language and culture component on the rubric. So now all the teachers know that's their job, is to integrate language and culture. And then we have these walkthrough forms where you walk through. It's like a 3-minute walkthrough. And you just, you take that form as a principal. I walk into the classroom, I look around. Do they have classroom rules? Do they have kids' work demonstrated on the walls? Do they have their learning objectives up? And now it also says, do you hear language in the classroom? So that's really cool. And then I got on the policy committee because that's another power place. And we're going to write it in stone. We need to write it in policy. One of the things we said by 2025, all K through 5 students are going to have push-in. I doubt if that's going to happen. We don't have enough language teachers or enough money. But if we set it as a priority, we can. If we can say, we're not going to have math no more, we're going to have language instead. But that's going to be a tough sell. I would do it. Just kidding. All right. So a big thing for social emotional learning is we use the 7 grandfather teachings. There's 7 primary values in our culture. And so we embed that in social emotional learning. You can find that, just look up 7 grandfather teachers on the internet. We're seeing culture pop up all over on our murals, our bulletin boards, on our website, and I think we've transformed the school. We certainly flipped it. And it wasn't me. I was part of it, and I kept pushing the same message in administrative level. But the superintendent did it. The director of special ed did it. He can introduce himself all in Ojibwe, big long speech in Ojibwe, and our principals pushed it. One of the principals said, you know, on our lesson plans, when a teacher submits a lesson plan, we're going to add a component on the template to say cultural correlate. So even on that document, when you submit a lesson plan for the secondary or high school, it has to have a cultural connection. And then we have our software, our curriculum software, mapping software. Eventually, when we get that populated all the way, it also has a cultural component in there. So through all of our documents, from the mission statement to the lesson plans to the teacher evaluation, has language and culture. We're starting to find well, we got to get a little bit deeper. Like if you look at Title I, Title II monies, what are we going to do with that? What is the budget narrative say about language and culture? And we need to get into those title grant applications in our professional development team. I think that to make sure that language and culture is populating their documents and getting into the budget a little bit more. It already is, but a surface, we really need to push harder and farther. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Since we got a minute left, we got no time left. So if you have a question, too bad. No, if you have any questions, I'll hang around a little bit. All right, good night. Now I'm gonna hang around if anybody has a question, but to the rest of you, good night. Oh, wow, me glitch. All right, Dr. Ninam, I think that's it. Have a good night.
You see Victoria Wynn's comment? She wants to know when she can come see your school.
She can come over anytime she wants, except next week. We're all going to Hawaii to go look at their immersion program.
Wow. Right on. So you're taking the,
Is there any way that I can hop on to that trip?
Yep, just jump in that carry-on luggage.
I have a duffel bag that's big enough.
There you go. Yeah, we're taking the language teachers there.
so you're taking
Fantastic.
the college team bus, you're gonna take that to San Francisco and
And to get the cheaper flight over.
yeah, right on. Good for you.
I have a quick question if you have a moment.
Sure.
So my name is Angela Koski, and I teach 5th and 6th grade science at the Cherry School on the Iron Range. So we're part of the St. Louis County School District, and we need to start doing more Native things in our school. And we have a Native population. It is small. Of my 5th and 6th grade, I probably have about 97 students, and 5 of them I would say are probably part Native. And I want to know, what would you recommend for me to start in my science classroom? What would be a good way that I could start bringing in more Native American science or teachings? I know you said the language. And so, introducing scientific words, what would you recommend?
Well, I would go to our website, look for cultural topics.
Okay.
On our website, it'll say, if you go to our website and scroll down to where it says language and culture, it'll bring you to the website that I maintain. And we populate it for our teacher to go through there, go across the top menu, and it'll say culture.
Okay.
And you can look for those culture items. And I would stick around food gathering. Those are the simplest and the safest ones. So if you're talking about
I absolutely loved your list, your monthly list. I thought
Yeah.
that would definitely be something that we could bring into our science and social studies classrooms very easily.
Mhm. Lisa, on our way, if you go to Red Lake, let me come back. Quick question from Lisa. If
Okay.
you go to the Red Lake website and you scroll down the web page, you will see language and culture, and it says learn more. Click on there, brings you to the website. Angela,
Yes.
so same place, go there, look at cultural topics. There's also cultural links. I put a whole bunch of links, and I try to categorize the links: history, our traditions. Certainly you can play any of those videos because they're there on the internet, about
Wonderful.
getting Indian names and what is a sweat lodge and what are the 7 grandfathers, what is history, why we have different ceremonies. Those are on there where our world
Okay.
is built. And then if you want to do language, hoa pedame chimiguch washte. So if you go, there's Mille Lacs has put together an Ojibwe Rosetta Stone. There's a
Really? Okay.
and it's only $100 for non-natives that aren't enrolled in a tribe with an enrolled number, but it's $25 if you have an enrollment number. So I don't know, just make up a number and say you're enrolled then.
I'm sure that there is probably someone that I could find with our Indian Ed program or whatever that we have.
Yeah, so you could have some of the kids that want to learn language. You could
Yeah.
get them. It's a 2-year subscription for $100. It's only $50 a year, and they could be learning language, and you could be
Yeah.
learning language with them, and you could.
Yes, I would love to do that. And I also absolutely love the idea that I can be teaching very traditional standards as far as family life and respect and all those kinds of things. And it can be tied right to the culture. And, there's just so many wonderful things that we can be bringing into our classroom.
Yep. So like the 7 grandfathers teaches, one of them is respect, and one of them is love and honest. How about
Yes.
another one is bravery. So you need
Yes.
to be brave to say how you really feel. and you need to be honest. And so you can use that, you could use that in your staff meetings. Are you being honest? You could say that to the teacher. Don't
You
be
know,
shy.
I'm embarrassed to admit this, but a few years ago, we had these absolutely beautiful, they're like paintings of, I would say, elders, and they have, it must be the 7 grandfathers. They have those different, honesty and those different things listed on these beautiful, it's like, I don't know if they're canvas or if it's actually leather, and then they're attached to a beautiful frame that look like sticks. And they're hung up in our cafeteria, but I don't believe anybody has ever explained what they are. And so we have a lot of work to do at our school, and I'm just getting started on this. I'm sad to say that I just learned this year that there are academic standards that are tied to the culture that we were supposed to be teaching.
Yeah,
And so we're hustling. So we have work to do. So thank you. I sure appreciate you taking time to share this wonderful information with us.
yeah.
And I will check out your website.
Yay,
Thank you so much.
already.
Okay,
Have a good night.
good night.
All right. Having no more further questions, I'll talk to you later, Dan. I'll send you that link.